So I'd like to welcome everybody to this little lesson on painting fog. It's just basically a little bit of wet into wet. So I'm going to pin my screen. Does everybody see the palette and the painting?
No.
Yes.
So let me know when you're all there.
I don't see the palette.
The palette is big and blue.
Oh, now I see it.
Okay. All righty then, shall we get started? Everybody's good?
Sure.
All right. So here, let me just tilt this a little bit. Make you dizzy, huh? Oh, I don't want to make you sick. Okay, so these are the pieces of paper that I've gotten ready for my 50-50 show, but this one won't be in it. This one's just for fun. I did all those things. It's good. So here's the photograph. It's got lines in it because of my computer's having a problem with the little jet. But what I'm going to do is just take this is a water-soluble graphite pencil called General's Sketch and Wash. And I'm just going to sketch this little cliff here. I want to make sure that my horizon line, which is going to be here, is not in the center of my painting, but up a little bit. I'm just putting in that horizon line below these trees here. That's where the water comes up to. And then this cliff comes just a little bit lower than the horizon line. And it's got a nice shape that we kind of all know here on the coast what that shape looks like. It has a little out and out cropping, and then it's kind of flat here, and then it's going to kind of come down like that. Then my trees, these go up into the fog. And then there's some low ones and kind of stops right about in there. And there's a few really foggy, misty ones back there. That's my sketch. That's all I'm going to do. I just glanced to see if there was anybody in the waiting room, but I don't see anybody. So this brush here is it's a 10 round that I use pretty often, really. These brushes, this says Norton Simon Museum. That's a museum down in Southern California that I went to. But pretty much they sell these paintbrushes at every museum in the gift store when you're checking out. And they're really good brushes. They have a pencil on one end and they have these really nice bristles, and then whatever museum it is, they have them. They have it printed there. I have them from all over the world. I like these brushes. So if you're at a museum and they have these, grab yourself a couple. They're really inexpensive, but they're really nice brushes. So I'm going to start.
Is that the pencil that washes away?
This pencil I don't think washes away.
Okay.
Let me just check it. No, it's just a graphite that doesn't wash away.
Okay.
It's regular old pencil. That would be too good to be true. That would make it a lot more expensive. So I've got a little bit of quinacridone yellow in my brush from the last painting I did this morning. So I'm wetting the sky. And I'm going to keep a nice hard line right here at the cliff. You can see the graphite starts to get water soluble and make kind of a light gray line. But since it's fog, that color's going to be okay. I'm coming underneath the trees here with the water. You can see when I touch the graphite that it's sort of blends in. And I'm going to come up here to the trees. So I'm going over the graphite. You can see it kind of, it's making fog with just the water-soluble graphite. Okay, so I'll paint it already. So for this foggy sky color, I'm going to use French ultramarine blue and sepia. I'm not using a lot of color, just one touch each, and I've got that. That's just about the color right there. I'm going to bring it down. And I'm going to bring it down to in here and just kind of come down, just making sure I've got a little bit of water in there. The next thing I'm going to do is take my Antwerp blue and a little bit of burnt sienna. You know what? I'm going to put a little sepia in it. See what it does. Yeah, I went almost right to the color of those trees far away in the fog really doesn't have a lot of green. It's really sort of black. Do I need to pull this camera down a little closer? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you paint those under trees, under fog? Yep.
Did I paint the under trees?
You painted a strip under that right-hand side with wet where the ocean is there. Yes. Did you paint that already with blue?
I did put just a tiny bit of the sky color across there. Really more than anything, just to kind of keep it wet. Now I have this really gray green. Did that answer your question, Penny?
Yes. Thank you.
Now I'm just going to go in here. It's going to blend up into the fog. It's running up the side of the tape. I don't want that. Oh, that's awfully green. I'm going to put more sepia into it. There, that's a better color. I like how it's granulating in there. I want it to soften into the sky colors. Which didn't do much. This is a thirsty brush, which is I wet it, it's clean, and then I wipe it off of my paper towel. That's called a thirsty brush. So I can just soften these lines. I like what it did in there. I wish it was doing that more. I'm going to help it a little bit. Again, so I washed it off in the water. And I just want these trees to be soft in here. So I feel like I'm in the fog. I'm just kind of touching it with the tip of the brush just to get it foggy. I don't want to make one loaf of bread. I want to have some. There we go. That's about it. Almost got it. And then just softening here. So it's really just a soft edge that is wet into wet that I think makes it look foggy. Then back in this area, right in here, between the cliff and those foggy trees, is a few trees that you can barely see. And they're farther back than the horizon line. So I'm just gonna, this is with the sky color. That should really soften up as it dries. Not really. I kind of put in a solid line and I want kind of spots that show more than others. There, that's better. There's some fog. Now the next thing I'm going to put in is this cliff. And the cliff is sepia at the top, but I don't want to do very, very dark. I want it to be not that light. I want it to have some water in it. This brush just sort of split, so maybe it's not that great of a brush. Okay, here we go. I like that slopey edge. I'm just painting the top right now.
Oh. Mine's bleeding right up into the sky.
Tricky, tricky. You're gonna have fog on that side too. Now this is burnt sienna. And I'm just working it into that sepia that was pretty dry. This part right here, this little chunk of rock sticking out, I'm going to soften it so that it looks more foggy. And I'm also trying to get rid of the pencil mark. That doesn't have to keep the exact same shade. Nobody's going to know that exact shade. That looks fairly foggy. Okay. I like that this side ended up with these variations in it. There's some little bit different colors here. There's fog in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the darks in the sand. It's going to be sepia and French. It's very pale color still. One of the things that I see here is that there's light sand right below the cliff, and then there's then there's lightness, and then there's, I can't really tell if that's my printer being bad or if that's sand, but I think it's dark sand right in here. So that's what I'm going to put in. That's about how dark it is. And cross like that. I'm going to soften that a little bit because I don't want it to be that hard. So my studio's in my kitchen. If you're hearing any little kitchen noises, that's my family. So what I'm doing now is trying to get all these like little footprints. People that have walked that way a whole bunch. There's a sort of a dark line right here. I'm going to put that in. I don't want it, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just using, it's really kind of the side of my brush now. So this paint, you can see how dilute that paint is right there. And now I'm just using this dry brush. Try to get this corner. So one of the things that appears really clear to me that I wanted to point out to you guys so you could see what I meant when I was talking about the C or the Z. And I'm going to draw right on this picture. So this is the horizon line. And then the water goes like that. So it's the slightest, it's not perfectly straight here, parallel with the horizon. It's such a small angle coming down from here to here. And then it makes this shape that's basically a shape like that, but it has a few ins and outs on the way. That's the shape of the water. And if you can sort of learn that shape and put it into any painting, then you don't have to look as hard each time. You know what the shape looks like. And then what I noticed in this photograph was that it's this kind of the same shape with the footprints. If I take it to here, that's sort of the same shape, and then it comes out that way. So to here is that same shape. Very, very light downward, and then it's a little sharper here. And this part here, if you just sort of make kind of like that. And then there's this pathway in that really has nothing on it that goes in there into the picture. So what I'd like to do right now is work on this shape just a little bit more because I have kind of a hard line there. So I just want to put a couple more marks. That's just French and sepia. Got a lot there now. So I'm really checking to see how much paint's in my brush. It's going to be a little bluer, but that's fine because I'm just going to put yellow over this anyway. So here I'm trying to just get more footprints kind of going out there. There's that one. This mark here. And there's all these footprints here. They kind of come in here and out. But I'm just using the side of my brush and kind of tapping to get that feel. There. That's all of the darks that I'm going to put in this part here. Now I'm going to put in the rest of the sand color. In my picture, it's much more yellow than it is in the photograph, and I'm going to keep it a little bit yellow. I'm going to clean myself a spot in my palette. And the color that I'm going to use is raw sienna. That's my raw sienna right there. I'm working it. I probably should put out fresh stuff, but sometimes I get a little lazy. I just have this like a touch of that sand color that was left there. So that kind of dulled it down a little bit. And then I have another thing going on, which is that this gold paint that Chris turned me on to. And it leaves little speckles when it gets painted on there. So there's my whole puddle of sand. Now the only trick, well, I guess there's more than one, but the trick that I'm going to use right now to the sand is that I have to leave my ocean white. I'm going to paint all of this, but when I get up here, I'm going to make that sea. I'm going to leave this where I'm pointing with my pencil. I'm going to leave that white. That's not going to have any sand. So I'm going to paint all of this, all of this, all of this, all of this, but I'm going to go around my ocean. So I'm going to leave that ocean white. So I'm going to just start kind of freely at the bottom. There it is. Okay, now I'm just going to do the tricky part. So I want to make sure that I make that sea. Now with just very, very light raw sienna, I'm going to go up into my fog and back here, just ever so little bit, that you get the feeling that that beach does go back in there. All right, I have a little bit of a harsh line right there. I'm just going to soften it with water or with a thirsty brush. Great time to sign my name. I'm going to sign it right in here. I'm going to put a G, a giant. Put a little bit over that so I can see my name. Darken my corner. So that's pretty close. I think it's looking good here. I need a few bits of dark color coming in here, and I also need a few bits where the water hits the sand. The sand would be dark right in there. So I'm just taking my shadow color that I used, and I'm going to, right where the white hits the sand, I'm going to go in with a thirsty brush and soften that. Seems I've only got too little. I think I'm going to put just a little bit of that color into the water also, so that it looks like at least there's some water out there. Maybe that was too much, but that's okay too. There. And some of this color here, the same color, which is French ultramarine blue and sepia. And I'm just going to do a little bit here because there is a little bit. There. Thirsty brush. I'm doing a lot of just dry brush and then a thirsty brush. Soften it. And I'll put a little bit in that corner just so my eye doesn't go there. There, that's the whole foggy coast right there. I think almost all of you know that this would be considered a high key painting. I was going to talk about that because it's almost all white. The colors that I used were so diluted that even though I painted the whole thing, it didn't leave much white. It's a very, very light painting, and that's considered a high key painting when the value is very high. Like it's at midday, so high noon is how I like to think of it. And a low-key painting is a dark painting, like at nighttime or in dusk, or lots of darks in it. That's called a low-key painting, but this is a high-key painting. And now I'm going to add some little figures. So on my phone, I can zoom in on those figures, but I want to just, I think I'm going to paint a couple. No, I'm just going to paint them right on here. Where I want their feet to go is, I want their legs to end up right there. So their feet are in the sand, not in the ocean. They're just walking along where the water's hitting the sand. It looks like there's several people there, but I'm just going to simplify it. I'm going to make a white, not a white, a red sweatshirt. So that's Pearline Maroon, that little corner there, that little bit of red. And I just want to place this jacket so that I know that when the feet come down, they land in the sand. So I better, that's pretty dry. I don't think my red's going to take off and end up in making a huge red tide, but that's always a possibility, I guess. All I want to do is make a little shape that is basically a rectangle. So I want the shoulders. You know what? I'm going to do a little one here. So I'm going to do this a little bit bigger. So I've got the shoulders, and it just comes, it's basically a rectangle, a little bit rounded on the shoulders. And then I take sepia, maybe a little French in it. So I have basically black, and I put just a little pinhead circle up there. And then the legs are super skinny. That's what we're going to do in micro on this painting here. Okay, so I'm back into my red, the red coat. And I want the legs to end up right in that sand. So I'm going to put my red coat right here. Did I make it too big? Maybe not. Sometimes you can kind of put a little, you're really careful, you can sort of kind of put an arm down or give it a little bit of a shape, or sometimes just your brush moving will sort of give you a shape that you get to, you know, it looks like, oh, they're leaning toward each other or something. You get something nice. Now I've got my black that I made, putting the head on, a little circle, it's a little gumdrop, a little egg up there, and then two skinny legs. I think I'm going to give this just the softest blot because it seems it's not very foggy. Ah, now she's in the fog. I may have to go back in and add more. I'm going to put another person next to, I see them as two women, as two friends walking. I'm going to use phthalo yellow green. Put another one right next to this person, not touching but next to them. Maybe not as tall. There's the green. And then to the black. I really watch my tip. I have a little bit of black paint and I know my tip is very thin there. I put in the head. That's a big head. A couple legs. Let's see what the legs do. She has really got a lot of hair. I guess that's okay. I'll blot that little hair just a little bit. So there's my figures. Of course, my eye's going to go right to the figures. And then they're the closest ones, but I want to have some that are out walking next to to the water's edge, and they're getting foggier as they go back. So I'm just going to use my 2 puddles that I just mixed them up now. I took the brown from the figure and I moved it into the color. And I'm just going to make some lines. These are going to be very indistinct. They're just little gray spots. And they get smaller as they go away. And I'm blotting them, they're blurry. Those, I managed to put those 3 exactly the same distance apart, so I'm going to put something closer. I think that's about all I need to do. I think maybe just a little bit more red in the jacket, since when I blotted it, it came off a little too much. You can always make them holding hands, or you can put a dog out in the water. This head does look kind of big, but I think I'm just gonna let it be. So, always the most fun part for me always is taking off the tape. But now that I look at the screen and I can see, this looks pretty dark to me. Is your eye just going straight there? Figures? I think it's a little dark. I'm just going to add water and see if I can lift a little bit of that off. Not much, because the sepia is so staining. I might be able to get it a little lighter. Yeah, that lightened it. That's better. Or maybe my figures need to be a little darker. Yeah, I think I will just darken those figures just a little bit. So they're not so much out in the fog. All right, I think that's better. Now I get to take the tape off. And there it is, just like that. We have a painting. So I'm going to come back over here and unpin that. And say hello to everybody, and did anybody paint, and do you have anything to show? Penny, oh, it's lovely. Everything about it is nice. The colors are nice, the fog is nice, your cliff is nice, your little figures, very nice.
Looks good.
Yeah.
So you can see it all right?
Yep. Yep.
Very nice, Penny.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's even got a mat. You're so fast. Your colors are gorgeous.
That looks good
Yeah.
too.
Yes, very foggy. You grew up, you lived here a long time.
Show it again.
Put it up again, Chris. Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Looks good.
yeah, the fog really has a good feel. Your amount of water that you put in there was really nice.
Good.
Anybody else? Any questions? No? Shall we sign off then? It was lovely seeing you. Thank you so much for coming and joining me, and I will.
Thanks, Kay.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mary Kay.
Thank you, Mary Kay.
When you do the 50/50 at Pacific, are you still going to do the Zoom?
Yes.
Aw,
Yeah, why not? I'll just do whatever painting I'm doing that day. I'll demonstrate it.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yay for
You
us.
guys are on my journey with me. You guys keep me going.
So will we see what you're doing at 50/50 every day?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
Great.
Good luck.
Well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I turned off the video. So I'm going to keep doing it. So I'm going to paint my 50 paintings and just demonstrate. The one thing is I might not, so what I've done with Zoom so far is on Tuesdays, I've put out what I'm going to paint on Wednesday. And I think that might need to change, because if I need to do one painting a day, then I need to show you on Tuesday's painting, and then Wednesday will be Wednesday's painting. But I could tell you what I'm planning on doing. Well, I'll see how it goes. That doesn't start, I think I pick up my tiles on Saturday. So I go in and I get the 50 tiles. They're 6 inches by 6 inches. And then I paint on watercolor paper and glue them to the tiles. So I'm not dragging the tiles around when I'm painting.
Great.
So we'll see how it
Look
goes.
forward to it.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks very much, Mary Kay.
you're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.